The Shadow State. Afghanistan in 2025. Isolation, recognition, and a nation on the brink. By International Affairs Desk. Date, July 6th, 2025. Kabul. Nearly 4 years after the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. and NATO forces from Afghanistan, the nation sits at a complex and perilous crossroads. As the world cautiously watches, the Taliban have consolidated control, reshaped the country's social order, courted powerful new allies, and pursued ambitious development projects. Yet behind the curtain of foreign diplomacy and symbolic infrastructure lies a humanitarian catastrophe, a collapsing economy, and a population suffocating under repression. Taliban rule. Absolute, unchallenged, and unrecognized. Until now. After seizing power in August 2021, the Taliban initially faced international isolation. However, in July 2025, a dramatic shift occurred. Russia officially recognized the Taliban government, making it the first major nation to do so. In a Kremlin ceremony, Taliban representatives were granted diplomatic status, a symbolic and strategic moment for the regime. This move signals a geopolitical pivot as Moscow seeks to deepen ties in Central and South Asia, while Afghanistan searches for legitimacy in a world still reluctant to forget the Taliban's brutal past. Recognition has emboldened the Taliban, who are now pressuring other regional powers to follow suit. China and Pakistan, long accused of quiet support for the Taliban, have increased cooperation without officially recognizing the regime. Pakistan, in particular, has recently restored full diplomatic relations and reopened trade routes with Afghanistan under the framework of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. A population in peril. The humanitarian crisis deepens. While foreign ministers shake hands and flags are raised in embassies, inside Afghanistan, the picture is bleak. An estimated 23 million Afghans, more than half the population, require humanitarian assistance. The United Nations warns that nearly half of all Afghan children are malnourished, and tens of thousands of families are living in makeshift camps without access to clean water, food, or medical care. This crisis is further worsened by mass deportations from neighboring Iran, where over 230,000 Afghan migrants were expelled in June alone. Many of them returned to Afghanistan with nothing, only to find a country that can barely sustain its current population. The international aid community is sounding alarms, but funding has dried up. The UN's Afghanistan appeal for 2025 has only reached 30% of its target, leaving millions vulnerable as winter approaches. The cost of absolute control, women erased from public life. The Taliban's grip on power has come with a systematic dismantling of women's rights. Girls remain banned from secondary school and universities. Women are barred from working in most sectors, especially NGOs and government offices. They are forbidden from traveling without a male guardian, and even activities like sports, music, and public speaking are outlawed. In a symbolic gesture of control, the Taliban have even banned the game of chess, calling it haram, under their interpretation of Islamic law. The ban shocked the global community, but was met with silence internally, where fear suppresses opposition. Religious police continue to patrol the streets of cities like Herat, Kandahar, and Kabul, enforcing strict dress codes. Women caught without a full hijab can be fined, detained, or subjected to re-education. A culture of silence has gripped Afghan society, where whispering discontent is often met with imprisonment or disappearance. Economy. No cash, no trade, no way out. The Afghan economy remains in a state of collapse. The World Bank calls the situation precarious as the country suffers from a 54% increase in trade deficit, reaching over $9 billion in 2024. Afghanistan is largely cut off from the global financial system. Sanctions persist, and over $7 billion in Afghan central bank assets remain frozen abroad. Coal exports to Pakistan and China have slowed dramatically due to technical issues and poor infrastructure. Textile industries have collapsed due to lack of foreign investment. Unemployment hovers near 40%, and cash is so scarce in rural areas that people are turning to bartering livestock for medicine. To mitigate this, The Taliban are negotiating with Russia and China to conduct trade in rubles and yuan, hoping to bypass the US dollar. These currency swaps might offer temporary relief, but without structural reform, foreign investment remains a distant dream. Conflicts simmer beneath the surface. Though the Taliban claim they have restored order, Afghanistan remains deeply unstable. ISIS-K, Islamic State, Khorasan Province, continues to carry out suicide bombings, particularly targeting Shia mosques, Hazara communities, and Taliban checkpoints. Intermittent tribal clashes also persist in the southern provinces, while tensions along the border with Pakistan flare frequently. In April, Pakistan conducted cross-border airstrikes into Paktia province, claiming to target members of the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, an extremist group operating from Afghan soil. The Taliban condemned the incursion, but their inability or unwillingness to control militant activity along the frontier only adds to the regional volatility. Meanwhile, in the heart of Kabul, street patrols are now a daily routine, and checkpoints are enforced by Taliban fighters armed with American-made rifles abandoned during the 2021 U.S. withdrawal. Dissent is virtually non-existent, driven underground by fear and repression. Symbolism and showmanship. Infrastructure and tourism push. Despite the gloom, the Taliban are attempting to project an image of progress. They have launched the Kash-Tepa Canal project, a $1 billion effort to irrigate hundreds of thousands of hectares of desert farmland. Though touted as revolutionary, engineers warn of poor planning, environmental degradation, and water shortages downstream that could spark new disputes with Central Asian neighbors. Surprisingly, tourism is seeing a modest resurgence. Nearly 9,000 foreigners visited Afghanistan in 2024, many of them adventure travelers lured by the untouched landscapes of Bamiyan and the Wakhan corridor. Flights from Dubai and Istanbul are slowly returning. The Taliban have even begun marketing Afghanistan as a land of pure Islam and natural beauty. But this tourism boom is fragile. In May, a bombing in the ancient city of Bamiyan killed 4 visitors. Most embassies continue to advise against all travel, and travelers who do arrive are heavily monitored. A nation at a crossroads. As 2025 unfolds, Afghanistan faces a stark duality. International attempts at normalization and a society buckling under one of the most extreme regimes on earth. The Taliban are betting on long-term endurance, aided by Russia, China, and regional diplomacy. Yet beneath the surface, the Afghan people continue to suffer, trapped in a country where hope is scarce, rights are a memory, and the future remains uncertain. For the world, the question remains, how long can Afghanistan remain out of sight and out of mind before the next crisis explodes beyond its borders? Editor's note: Afghanistan is not just a war story or a geopolitical pawn. It is a nation of 40 million people, half of whom are children, struggling to survive amidst power games, ideology, and neglect. The time for silent observation has long passed.